Hey, what's up? Welcome to Social Distance, episode 3. I'm Bobby Del Rio.
And I'm Megan Laursen. We're going to talk about some new developments today in the COVID-19 crisis around the world, just how we're feeling about it. And as always, you can join our Facebook group, Social Distance, created by Bobby Del Rio, and jump on any episode.
So we are in a really interesting time right now. It's funny because there's more death happening, like all around the world, but I actually woke up very sort of optimistic and hopeful, right? I don't know. Do you think that's weird?
No, I don't think that's weird because I think, with the time that we have, it's almost like the hustle and bustle of real life doesn't exist anymore. And you almost have time to sit back and reflect on your life and what you really want to be doing with it. So as much as people are scared and as much as they're having trouble with it, it actually might be a way of coping, being able to be in your own shell. What do you think about that?
I think that's an intelligent point, right? Because I'm here going, people are dying. Why do I feel better? And obviously I'm not happy that people are dying.
Right. Of
But
course.
it's like I've kind of settled into like, oh, this is life right now.
Yeah.
And also I was going to say also the New York stuff, right? It's like there have been more people dying, and the US, those numbers are going up. I think 2,000 people died yesterday.
Double from last episode.
But also what's happening though is they are starting to flatten that curve. So the number of hospitalizations is going down.
I hear
right?
that we're at the peak of it, actually. Before, we're almost at the worst point of it before it starts to flatten.
Yeah, we're at the inflection point.
Yeah.
Look, no one knows, and it's so new.
Yes.
But I think that because I'm trying to understand this optimism, right? And that's why I wanted to do this podcast. So like we're checking in every week. We're still socially distanced. It may go like this for another 6 months, maybe just a month.
Know.
I mean, 76 days in, they've removed the lockdown in Wuhan.
Wow.
Right, which is the best name ever. Wuhan. Anyway, this is a whole other thing. I'm half Chinese. I can say that.
Yeah, you're allowed. I'm not.
Watch yourself. But I just feel like the world is starting to figure it out. Not that it's good, but it's like, oh, like we can make this work.
Yeah, we're settling in, and it kind of begs the question on how well we can handle other crises, because there was this whole resistance around climate change and changing our way of life, and look how easy it is in a crisis. Just boom, our life is completely different now, and we found a new way of living and a new way of adapting. And I don't think people realize how versatile we are as humans, and I don't think the optimism is strange, because it's almost, humans have a tendency to just find the light in the darkness. Well, how can we move forward? And I think that's how we've been resilient throughout history.
Well, you sort of have to, don't you? I mean, otherwise, like, bad things are going to happen, and then we're all just going to kill ourselves.
Yeah, I've seen jokes all about it everywhere on the internet, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. And you know what? It's all gallows humor. It's what...
it's dark humor. It's like you have to do it to cope. Although there is the other side of that, where now you're starting to hear stories where people are actually killing themselves.
I didn't hear that.
Oh yeah, no, I just posted in our group, and for anyone who doesn't know, anyone can join our Facebook group for Social Distance. We have other guests lined up for future shows, so if you're interested, we want to hear your thoughts. But in that group, like, I'm posting all these links, and there's been some dark things too, right? It's like, there's like people who are there's a 34-year-old dude who just killed himself because he couldn't handle being quarantined. Right. Domestic assaults are going up. Divorces are going up. But at the same time, you're starting to see expressions of love at the same time.
Yeah, you've been starting to see people really going out there and supporting each other, people supporting their neighbors, people helping each other more, even if they can't really be together. I saw this beautiful video of a family who it was their grandmother's birthday, and they all went outside the senior home she's living in, and through the window they had kind of this message board, kind of like Love Actually, where they were telling her, "We love you, we wish we could see you," and all of that outside her window. And so it's tearing people apart on one hand, and it's really destructive, and on the other hand, it's kind of bringing out the best and worst in humanity, if you think about it.
You know, it's funny, we're talking about inflection points, and I feel like there's a bit of an inflection point happening emotionally.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if that's too conceptual, but
no, it's true, because it kind of feels like it's either going one way or the other. You're either feeling very optimistic or very hopeless right now. It just doesn't feel like there's an in-between for people at this point in time.
Yeah, and we're all at this sort of like existential crossroads.
Oh my gosh,
right?
yeah. Because when you have all this time to yourself, you have the space to think, well, what do I really want to do with my life? You know, when you're not caught up in this hustle and bustle and this just the everyday routine, and you have to change your routine, you have to also consider your happiness. How happy was I in this routine? How can I be happier?
Oh yeah, you know, it's funny, like, I mean, we're doing this podcast, and I'd actually wanted to do a podcast for a couple of years, but I could never justify the time
Right.
or the investment of knowledge.
Right, exactly.
And it's been really satisfying. But now it's like all these things I've wanted to do, right? And obviously we have some projects that we're going to reveal in the next few weeks. Some of them have been years in the making. So it's interesting. Like it's a time where you can finish that novel,
Yeah.
right? You can release that web series. You can edit that film.
You can write that script, you know? I mean, and this isn't to say for all of you watching that you have to be productive. Some people are actually just being able to be productive in the sense of self. I don't know if that's too abstract. It kind of means to find yourself, to find hobbies you like to do, or to just enjoy a day watching Netflix when maybe you needed rest and you couldn't get it in your everyday life.
You know, I've talked to some people. It's actually the opposite. I like your idea, right? The sort of productivity of self. Some people, it's like their productivity is that they're actually reconnecting to their family.
Yeah.
To people in their life. They've been so busy making money and doing this job. And I actually think it's kind of like post 9/11, like work-life balance changed forever after 9/11, because people realized, okay, I still want to work, but like family's super important. Like I have to balance that out. And I think this is another inflection point culturally for that sort of, I don't think that, and I think a lot of people know this already, but I don't think that life's not just going to go back to the way it was before Corona, even when all the health stuff is gone, because culturally, socially, spiritually, I think we've shifted as a populace.
There is this huge kind of morning show on YouTube called Good Mythical Morning. And they had pre-recorded episodes essentially before the coronavirus ever happened. And there was one where they were taste testing snacks, and they were all putting their hands in ice cream to try it. And all the comments were saying, the pre-coronavirus era, when that wasn't dangerous. I feel like people are going to be a lot more cautious and germophobic. I'm a germaphobe myself, and in my regular life, you know, I didn't like to stick my spoon in something someone else stuck their spoon in. I'd like a different plate, you know. But now I have a feeling that's going to be normal. I'm not the weird one anymore.
Oh, and you're still the weird one.
I'm still the weird one, but the society's going to change forever.
We're all going to be the weird ones.
Yes, join us. But in all seriousness, it has brought people to the idea that family is important again, because life is precious and you never know when it's going to end, and you never know when that person in your life is going to leave it. And so it's best to do things with them now. You know, tell someone you love them if you haven't and you've been wanting to, because you might not have the chance tomorrow.
Well, and here's the thing, you know, I mean, we've been doing this now. This is episode 3.
Yes.
And we've got, you know, every week we're doing, and, you know, we're starting to add some extra episodes too. So that's cool. But we really are documenting the sort of social distancing phenomena as it unravels.
Yeah.
And it's been quite a journey already in 3 episodes.
Oh, I know. It's just looking back at our first episode to now, there's been so many drastic changes that we've seen, you know, other than the death rate, other than the panic and the worry. It's kind of like that panic and worry that was in the first episode has set in while those deaths are going up and rising. It's a very weird paradox, isn't it?
Oh yeah, episode 2 was dark.
Yeah.
Episode 2 was like, you know, because it was like we were starting to realize, oh, like people are dying. It started to feel real.
Yeah.
And now I guess maybe it's like collectively as a culture, we're like accepting the death. Not that we are happy about it, but we're accepting it, and we're being like, okay, this is my life. How can I move forward from here?
Yeah. You know, and where are we going to go after this is all over? I feel that our government has done a very good job just keeping people happy, because even though, you know, there is this panic and there is this financial insecurity, I'm very happy that Trudeau has set out a fund basically for people in this period so that they can be more secure. A lot of jobs like yours, Bobby, continue to pay you, you know, to stay home essentially. And I think that's so important, but there are a lot of jobs out there that don't do that. And we actually, I can see some positive change coming, because I touched on this in the last episode, but we were not seeing grocery store workers, for example, as essential workers, right? They were looked down upon by politicians. They're looked down upon by people in the upper class. But now I hope that we'll see them making more money when we come out of this, because it's way more of an essential thing than anybody ever thought.
Oh yeah, we see the value in that now.
Yeah.
It's hard to say, you know. I mean, I do think there's going to be a lot of institutional changes, but I also think it depends where you live, right? You brought up Canada. Like, I think I do agree. Like, you know, like Doug Ford. I'm not a Doug Ford fan at all, but I've been pretty impressed with his leadership through this.
Me too.
But you look at Trump, and I don't think we want to spend 19 minutes talking about Trump, but
no,
I'm just happy that he's not our leader. I'll tell you that.
I know he seems to evade things, and I can't believe that at some point he was calling it a hoax from the Democrats, and it's just ridiculous. He didn't handle it the way that it needs to be handled, and I think that's why the United States is the new epicenter. For any Americans watching this, I hope you consider this when you vote, that your leader can really impact your daily life when a crisis like this happens.
Anyway, we're not really a political podcast, but
No.
I do think that, you know, to see how the leadership affects the people, it's a really big deal. So I think we're doing all right here in Canada. We'll see. I mean, every week, you know, we'll see what happens. But so far, week 3 of quarantine, I feel optimistic.
Yeah. You know what? I feel pretty optimistic too. I took a walk yesterday. I'm in a little small town that my parents live in. There's nobody on the streets. And if somebody is on the street, they go to the other side, and we're 6 feet apart. And it's weird, because you think there's so much chaos going on when you see the news every single day. And then you go outside and it feels like nothing's happening. Because I see kids riding their bikes, people walking their dogs, and it's kind of like we're separate, but we're together. Does that make sense? And it almost feels
because we're all going through this together. Because even 9/11 was really New York, and then the world, depending on where you lived, would kind of like share that grief from afar. But from an empathetic perspective, we're now like we're all affected around the world. So when's the last? Even if you think of the world wars, you kind of had to pick a side, right? Where here, like, nobody's pro Corona.
Yeah, I don't think there's a single person on the planet who is. And that's the thing. It's weird, because we're fighting against an enemy, but it's not human. And so as much differences as we have, as much divide in political beliefs we may have, religious beliefs, where we live, whatever, it almost seems to not matter anymore, because it feels like we're all fighting a common enemy, and so we have to come together. I'm going to say that again. We're all fighting a public enemy, so we have to come together. And it just feels like there is that unity, but there's also a lot of blame going on. There's a lot of violence towards Chinese Canadians and Chinese Americans. You had an experience a couple weeks ago, didn't you?
Oh yeah, no, I was walking down the street and see, here's the thing: is you don't know what's racially motivated, what's not racially motivated. Although if you want to get into the race and how Black Americans are dying at a rate much higher than white Americans, it's linked to poverty, and how that leads to your health, adverse effects and whatnot. It's quite a loaded issue politically, but on the streets there was a white woman who was about my age, and she saw me and freaked out and like dove into a wall to avoid me. And I don't know if it was because I'm half Chinese and she was like, that guy looks Chinese, get the hell away, or if she's just terrified of everyone. Right. But it's like, but you don't know. Right. And so being half Chinese, it's in my mind. Like I have many friends who've been harassed and they're of Asian descent, right? Or their grandmother or their mother, like it's like happening a lot. So, and this is the thing about racism, right? Is that you don't know. The problem is that when it happens, there's so many instances where it's ambiguous. We don't really know, is racism in place? But the fact that you have to ask yourself constantly starts to create this sort of paranoia,
Because it's like those microaggressions, right? That happen every day, where they're kind of so subtle, but at the same time, it says a lot about what society thinks and how society's not really progressed enough, and I agree with you too on in America, how we're seeing, it's really sad that we're seeing a lot more people of color dying. And I think that's largely due, I heard from a friend the other day, and I never knew this, that Black women are more likely to die in the hospital for childbirth. Now imagine a virus, right? So not only is there a wealth gap because of how the system is set up and racially motivated, but it's also maybe some bias in the healthcare industry. I'm not trying to create conspiracies.
No, I was about to make that same point, right? Is that you don't know, right?
Right.
Is it like is it really it's poor people who are being targeted, or is there, I don't know, like if there's a Black person and a white person in a hospital and one of them gets the ventilator, do you know what I mean? Are people like more likely to give it to the white person or maybe the Black person? I don't know. I'm just saying, if that many more Black people are dying than white people, and that trend is evident. Like you have cities, I think there's, I don't know, like Chicago or something. There's a few of these cities you keep seeing on the news, right? Where they have like 30% of their population is Black, but 70% of the people in their city who have coronavirus are Black.
Yeah.
And so you see those trends over and over, and I don't know why, to be honest, but that there's something there that's not good.
Yeah, it really speaks to something that's racially motivated, because why, that's such a weird statistic, right? Because why would 30% of the population be 70% of the cases? There's something wrong there.
And it's several cities, you see the same pattern.
Yeah, there's definitely something fishy going on, and it's not okay. And that's another thing, the intersectionality of all this is just makes it hard to cope with it. I can't imagine being in that position where I'd think someone might not save me because of my race.
Yeah, and I think that they're sort of in a triage situation right now, right? Just trying to save many people as they can. But when the dust settles, and I don't know when this is all going to be over, there's apparently going to be 3 waves of this all around the world. Although I don't know how that works, because we're all at sort of different places in our evolution, and we're such a globalized society that, okay, so if we've had 1 wave, but China's had 3, are we cool? But then if somebody from China comes here, now we have another wave. And so then, like, you can't, it's all, you know what I mean? It's like a ball that's constantly moving. So even if the ball stops moving here, if it's moving in France, I mean, that's just a plane away from coming back. So how do you, like, does that mean countries stop trading with each other? You stop traveling to other places? You stop, like, how do you, I
Yeah,
don't
how do we
understand how you
manage?
mitigate internationally. Like,
Maybe they might stop us quarantining in our own homes, but we might be quarantined in the sense where we do stop travel, we do stop trade,
I mean,
because
I guess, well, I was going to say, I guess the X factor is just the cure, right? The vaccine.
yeah,
Once you get that, you distribute it around the world, then I guess it doesn't matter. But I just, until then, I guess you kind of have to, like, try not to talk to anyone,
I
try not to
guess.
travel anywhere. I mean,
Yeah,
for 2 years, what if they never develop a vaccine? I mean, anyway,
I
I'm
sure
so
hope they do.
optimistic, and now here we go.
Well, they do have human trials going on right now, and people are being paid a large amount of money just to test out different injections. So I truly hope that in the coming weeks, we will hear more news on that. And hopefully it's positive news once the curve starts to really flatten. I
And that's a good
think,
segue, because we are a couple of chatty cats, and I think it's time for this episode to come to a close.
yes. So thank you
I just said
again.
chatty cats. Like,
I think you meant to say chatty Cathy's, but either one,
did I?
either one works.
Is that an expression? I've never. Anyway.
If it's an expression, if it's not an expression, we've made it up.
Wow.
We have to coin it and sell it on merch. No, that's a joke.
Let's do it. Do it.
So thank you so much for joining us on episode 3 of Social Distance Podcast. You can join us at our Facebook group, again, at Social Distance, created by Bobby Del Rio.
All right. Take care, guys. Stay safe.
Stay safe.